I'm going to ruin you for other ladies, Tyla promised, and she meant every word. Augusto Valente, the flirtatious mafia don who'd charmed half of Milan into his bed, just stared at her, with something dangerous flickering in his eyes. Not anger, not amusement. Something deeper, something that made her breath catch. Like he'd been waiting decades for someone to see past the act, to demand the real man hiding underneath all that carefully constructed charm. This epic romance story will teach you that real love doesn't bow to reputation or power. It transforms both, making something beautiful from the wreckage of what we thought we needed to be. Kindly like, share, and subscribe. Tyla walked into Augusto Valente's office without knocking. The door swung open hard enough to make his assistant jump, papers scattering across her desk like frightened birds. But Tyla didn't stop, didn't apologize, didn't slow down until she was standing in front of the massive mahogany desk where the infamous mafia. Don sat with a phone pressed to his ear. He looked up slowly. Those dark eyes swept over her once, then twice, and something flickered there. Surprise, maybe? Or interest? Probably both. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, his voice carrying that smooth Italian accent that had probably melted 1,000 hearts. Not hers. He ended the call and leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "You must be lost." "I'm Tyla Ibrahim," she said, planting her hands on his desk. "And you stole my father's estate." Augusto's eyebrow lifted slightly. Stole is such an ugly word. "Then what would you call taking possession of property that belonged to my family for 3 generations? Business." He stood up, and she hated how tall he was, how his presence seemed to fill the entire room. "Your father owed certain people a significant amount of money. When he couldn't pay, the debt transferred, along with the collateral. My home isn't collateral. According to the paperwork, it is." Tyla's jaw tightened. She'd known this conversation would be difficult, but she hadn't expected him to be so calm about it, so unbothered, like her entire life crumbling meant nothing more than another Tuesday afternoon. "I want it back," she said. "Then pay the debt." "You know I can't do that." Augusto walked around the desk, moving with the kind of grace that came from absolute confidence. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Then we have a problem," he said quietly. "No." Tyla lifted her chin. "You have a problem, because I'm not going anywhere until this is resolved." Something changed in his expression, a spark of genuine interest, maybe even amusement. "You're threatening me?" "I'm making a promise." He studied her for a long moment, and she refused to look away, refused to show even a hint of the fear churning in her stomach. Men like Augusto Valente fed on weakness. She'd learned that from her father's mistakes. "You're either very brave or very foolish," Augusto finally said. "Probably both." The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile, but not quite. "I like that answer." "I don't care what you like." "You should." He moved closer, and she forced herself to stand her ground. "Because right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and complete ruin." "You are my ruin." "No, Kara, I'm your only option." Tyla hated how her heart kicked at that word. "Kara." "Darling," said with such casual intimacy, like they were old friends instead of enemies meeting for the first time. "Don't call me that," she said. "Why not?" "Because we're not friends." "We could be. I'd rather eat glass." This time he did smile, and it transformed his entire face. Made him look younger, less dangerous, more human. "You're different from the others." "What others?" "The women who usually come to my office." "Let me guess." Tyla crossed her arms. They're here to throw themselves at you, beg for your attention, maybe offer something in exchange for your generosity. His smile widened. Something like that. Well, I'm not here to stroke your ego, Valente. I'm here because you took something that doesn't belong to you, and I want it back. Everything in this city belongs to me, he said quietly. One way or another. The words should have sounded arrogant. Instead, they sounded like simple fact, and that made them infinitely more terrifying. Not me, Tyla said. I'll never belong to you. Augusto's eyes darkened. Something shifted in the air between them, heavy and electric. We'll see, his assistant knocked tentatively. Mr. Valente, your 3 o'clock is waiting. Reschedule it, he said, without looking away from Tyla. But sir, I said reschedule it. The assistant disappeared quickly. You should go, Augusto said to Tyla, but his tone suggested the opposite. Before I decide to keep you here longer. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Most people are. I'm not most people. No, he agreed softly. You're definitely not. Tyla turned to leave, then paused at the door. This isn't over, Valente. I'll get my home back, with or without your cooperation. I'm counting on it, he said, and something in his voice made her shiver. She walked out with her head high, but her hands were shaking. Later that evening, Tyla sat in the small apartment she'd been renting since her father's death, staring at the box of his belongings the estate lawyer had delivered. Photos, mostly. Her mother smiling in the garden, her father looking young and hopeful before the gambling consumed him, a life reduced to memories and regrets. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered anyway. Hello? Miss Ibrahim. Augusto's voice filled her ear, smooth and dark. We didn't finish our conversation. Yes, we did. I don't think so. Tyla stood up, pacing to the window. What do you want? To make you an offer. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. She waited, hating how her pulse quickened. Work for me, he said. 6 months. Help me with a project that requires someone with your particular skills. I'm a curator, not a criminal. I know exactly what you are. His voice dropped lower. And I know what you need. You don't know anything about me. I know you're running out of money. I know you've been trying to find work for 3 months with no success. I know your father's debts extended beyond the estate, and there are other people waiting for their payment. People far less reasonable than me. Tyla's hand tightened on the phone. You've been investigating me. I investigate everyone who walks into my office making threats. It wasn't a threat. Then what was it? She didn't answer. Work for me, Augusto said again. Help me acquire and authenticate a collection of artifacts for my private gallery. Do that, and at the end of 6 months, I'll return your father's estate. Fully restored, debt cleared. Why? Because I need someone with your expertise. You could hire anyone, but I want you. Those 4 words hung between them, heavy with implication. This is crazy, Tyla said. Probably. I don't trust you. Smart girl. So why would I agree? Because, Augusto said quietly, you don't have a choice, and we both know it. Tyla stared out at the Milan skyline, lights twinkling like false promises. He was right. She didn't have a choice. The bills were piling up, her savings nearly gone, and the other creditors her father owed were starting to circle like sharks. I need the agreement in writing, she said finally. Of course. Every detail, timeline, expectations, exact terms. Done. And I want guaranteed safety. If this work puts me in danger, it won't, Augusto interrupted. You'll be under my protection at all times. That's not reassuring. It should be. I don't fail at protecting what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The confidence in his voice made her stomach flip. Send me the contract. I'll review it with a lawyer. Smart. I'll have it delivered tomorrow morning. Fine. Tyla? She waited. You won't regret this, he said softly. I promise you that. The line went dead before she could respond. The next morning, Tyla found herself standing in front of the same building, staring up at the gleaming glass and steel like it might swallow her whole. She'd spent all night thinking about his offer, turning it over and over in her mind, looking for the trap. Because there had to be a trap. Men like Augusto Valente didn't give anything away without expecting something in return. But he was right about one thing. She didn't have a choice. The elevator ride to his office felt endless. Her stomach twisted with each passing floor, anxiety mixing with something else, something she didn't want to name. His assistant smiled when she arrived. He's expecting you. Of course he was. Augusto stood by the window when she entered, hands in his pockets, silhouette dark against the morning light. He turned as the door closed behind her. You came, he said. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped you would. He gestured to a chair. Sit. Please. Tyla remained standing. Tell me exactly what this job entails. Direct. I appreciate that. He moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. I'm acquiring a collection of American artifacts, ancient pieces that have been scattered across Europe for the last century. I need someone to verify their authenticity, handle the negotiations with the current owners, and oversee their transport to my gallery. That's it? That's it. And in exchange, you'll return my father's estate. Yes. Why do I feel like there's a catch? Augusto's mouth curved. Because you're intelligent. There is a catch. Several, actually. Her stomach dropped. I'm listening. First, you'll be working closely with me. Daily meetings, travel when necessary, full access to my operations in this area. That doesn't sound like a catch. That sounds like a normal job. Second, he continued, ignoring her comment, there are people who won't be happy about this acquisition. Competitors, rivals, those who believe these artifacts belong in museums or back in the United States. You may face pressure, threats, attempts at persuasion. You mean danger. I mean complications. That's not what you mean at all. His eyes met hers, unflinching. I won't lie to you, Tyla. This work exists in a gray area. Legal, but barely. Ethical, but questionable. If you accept, you'll be entering my world. And my world is not always safe. She should walk away. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around and run as fast as possible. But the image of her childhood home flashed through her mind. The garden where her mother taught her the names of flowers. The library where she'd spent countless hours dreaming of distant places. The kitchen where she'd learned to cook her grandmother's recipes. All of it gone. Unless she did this. I have conditions, Tyla said. Augusto's eyebrow lifted. You're negotiating? You said I'm intelligent. So let me be intelligent. If I'm going to work for you, it's going to be on my terms. At least some of them. He leaned back against his desk, arms crossed. The pose should have looked casual. Instead, it highlighted the breadth of his shoulders, the strength in his frame. I'm listening. I want the agreement in writing, every detail, the timeline, the expectations, the exact terms of the estate return. Done. I want guaranteed safety. If your rivals or competitors target me because of this work, you protect me. Fully. That was already implied. I want it stated. Fine, what else? Tyla took a breath. I want access to everything. No secrets, no hidden agendas. If this collection is stolen, if these artifacts were obtained illegally, if there's any reason I should refuse to be part of this, I want to know now. Something flickered in Augusto's expression. Respect, maybe. The artifacts were not stolen. They were purchased from private collectors, estate sales, and auction houses. Everything is documented and legal. As legal as these things can be, anyway. That's not reassuring. It's honest." They stared at each other for a long moment. 6 months, Tyler finally said. "And then I never see you again." 6 months, Augusto agreed. But the way he said it, the way his eyes held hers, she knew he didn't believe that any more than she did. He pulled out the contract, sliding it across the desk. "Read it. Take your time. Have a lawyer review it if you want. I'll be here when you're ready to sign." Tyler picked up the document, scanning the dense legal language. Everything he'd promised was there, clearly stated. The timeline, the compensation, the return of her father's estate upon completion of the work. But there was one clause that made her pause. "What's this?" She pointed to a paragraph near the end. Augusto leaned over to look, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Protection clause. It states that you're under my protection for the duration of the contract, and any period thereafter, where threats related to this work might emerge." Any period thereafter? That's vague. Intentionally so. If someone decides to come after you because of this work, I don't want a time limit on my ability to keep you safe. That sounds like you're expecting trouble. I'm preparing for possibilities. There's a difference. Tyler studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but all she saw was sincerity, maybe even concern. "Fine," she said, pulling out a pen. "Where do I sign?" "Are you sure? You can take more time." "I'm sure." She signed quickly, before she could change her mind. Augusto took the document, adding his own signature with a flourish. "Welcome to the team, Miss Ibrahim. It's just Tyler." "Tyler," he repeated, and the way he said her name made her shiver. "I'll have my assistant set up your workspace. We start tomorrow." "Tomorrow? That's fast. We have a lot of ground to cover. The first acquisition meeting is scheduled for next week in Florence. I'll need you up to speed by then." "Next week? Augusto, you can do it. I have faith in you." The confidence in his voice was both reassuring and terrifying. A few days later, Tyler stood in Augusto's private gallery, staring at the empty walls that would soon hold priceless pieces of history. The space was stunning. High ceilings, perfect lighting, climate control that rivaled major museums. Money everywhere she looked, displayed in marble floors and gilded frames, and security systems that probably cost more than most people made in a year. "What do you think?" Augusto's voice came from behind her. She didn't turn around. "It's impressive, I'll give you that. But it feels empty, like a stage waiting for a performance that might never happen." He moved beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "That's why you're here, to fill it, to make it mean something." Tyler glanced at him. "You really care about these artifacts?" "Should I not? Most collectors just care about the prestige, the bragging rights. Look what I own. Look what I can afford to keep locked away." "I'm not most collectors." "No," she said quietly. "You're really not." Augusto turned to face her fully. "My grandmother was half American. Did you know that?" She shook her head. "She came to Italy as a young woman, married my grandfather, raised my father in a house that blended both cultures. She told me stories about the pharaohs, the pyramids, the civilization that birthed so much of what we consider modern society." His voice dropped, becoming almost wistful. "She died when I was 12. But I never forgot those stories, never stopped wanting to understand where she came from, where part of me comes from." Tyler felt something shift in her chest, a crack in the armor she'd been building since the moment they met. "This isn't just about collecting, is it?" she asked. "No. It's about connection." Yes. She understood that. Understood it more than she wanted to admit. "My mother used to say that objects carry memory, that every artifact holds the fingerprints of everyone who touched it, owned it, loved it. She said we're all connected through these physical pieces of the past. She sounds wise. She was. Tyla's throat tightened. She died when I was 16. Cancer. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just... She took a breath. Just treat these pieces with respect. They're not just objects. They're somebody's grandmother's legacy, somebody's mother's memory. They matter. I know, Augusto said quietly. That's why I hired you. The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. This wasn't the flirtatious playboy she'd expected. This was someone genuine, someone who understood loss and longing and the weight of carrying memories. Tell me about the collection, she said, needing to shift back to business before she got too comfortable with this version of him. Augusto gestured to a tablet on a nearby table. I've compiled a list of targets, 17 pieces total, ranging from small amulets to larger sculptures. Most are in private collections across Europe. A few are in estate sales that haven't been publicized yet. Tyla scrolled through the list, her trained eye immediately recognizing several pieces. This is ambitious. Some of these items haven't been seen in decades. That's why I need you. Your expertise, your reputation, your connections in the field. My reputation isn't that extensive. I'm still early in my career. But you published that paper on authentication methods, the one that revolutionized how we verify late-period bronzes. She stared at him. You read my paper. Every word. Twice. It was brilliant. Heat crept up her neck. It was just research. It was groundbreaking. And it's exactly the kind of thinking I need for this project. Tyla didn't know how to respond to that. Men like Augusto weren't supposed to read academic papers. They weren't supposed to understand the nuances of archaeological research. They certainly weren't supposed to compliment her work with such genuine appreciation. Thank you, she said finally. Don't thank me. Just do what you do best. Be brilliant. By the end of the week, Tyla had settled into an unexpected routine. Mornings at the gallery, reviewing inventory lists and authentication reports. Afternoons in Augusto's office, discussing acquisition strategies and potential obstacles. Evenings alone in her apartment, trying not to think about how easily she'd adapted to working alongside a man she'd sworn to hate. Because that was the problem. She didn't hate him, not even close. Augusto was complicated. Yes, he was powerful and dangerous, and absolutely capable of the ruthless acts his reputation suggested. But he was also intelligent, thoughtful, surprisingly kind when he thought no one was watching. He asked about her opinions, listened when she spoke, treated her like an equal partner rather than a temporary employee. It was disorienting. You're staring, he said, without looking up from the contract he was reviewing. Tyla blinked. What? You've been staring at me for the last 5 minutes. Is there something you want to say? Heat crept up her neck. I wasn't staring. I was thinking. About? About how strange this is. Now he did look up, dark eyes finding hers across the desk. Strange how? I came here ready to fight you, to tear down everything you'd built if that's what it took to get my home back. But instead, she gestured between them. This, whatever this is. Collaboration. Is that what we're calling it? Augusto's mouth curved slightly. What would you call it? I don't know yet. He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace that always made her pulse quicken. You're different from what I expected. What did you expect? Someone angrier, more desperate, easier to manage. Tyla laughed, sharp and bitter. Manage. That's a nice way of saying manipulate. I wasn't going to manipulate you. Just everyone else. Maybe. He stopped in front of her chair, looking down with an intensity that made her skin prickle. But not you. Why not? Because you see through it. The charm, the power, the carefully constructed image. You look at me and see. I don't even know what you see. but it's not what everyone else sees. And that makes you dangerous." Her breath caught. "Dangerous to whom?" "To me," Augusto said quietly. The air between them felt charged, electric, like standing too close to a lightning strike, feeling the energy build and build until something had to break. Tyla stood, forcing herself to meet his eyes, even though every instinct screamed at her to look away. "I'm not dangerous. I'm just honest." "That's what makes you dangerous." "Then maybe you should fire me. I'd rather keep you close." "Why?" His hand lifted, fingers brushing her cheek so gently she almost gasped. "Because," he murmured, "I'm starting to suspect you might be the only honest thing in my entire life." Then he stepped back, breaking the moment, leaving her standing there with her heart racing and her thoughts spinning. "We have a meeting in Florence next week," he said, his voice returning to business like nothing had happened. "One of the collectors is willing to negotiate for a particular statue I've been pursuing. I'll need you there to verify its authenticity." Tyla swallowed hard. "Fine. We'll take my jet. Leave Monday morning. Return Wednesday evening." "Your jet? Did you think we'd fly commercial?" "I try not to think about how obscenely wealthy you are." He smiled, real and genuine. "That's one of the things I like about you." "What are the other things?" The question came out before she could stop it. Augusto's smile widened. "Your directness, your passion for your work, the way you argue with me like I'm a normal person instead of someone to be feared, the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating, the way—" "Okay," she interrupted, face burning. "I get it." "Do you?" He moved closer again, and she realized she was backed against the desk with nowhere to go. "Because I don't think you do. I don't think you realize how extraordinary you are, how you walk into rooms and change the entire energy just by existing, how you make me want to be better, just so I can be worthy of the way you look at me when you forget to be guarded." "Augusto, I'm falling for you," he said simply. "Have been since the moment you walked into my office with fire in your eyes. And I know that's complicated and probably unwelcome and definitely not part of our professional arrangement. But it's true, and I'm tired of pretending it's not." Tyla's breath caught in her throat. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not?" "Because we have a professional relationship, because you're my employer, because there's a massive power imbalance here, because you feel it too," Augusto interrupted quietly. "And that terrifies you." She wanted to deny it, wanted to laugh and tell him he was delusional and storm out with her dignity intact. But she couldn't, because he was right. She did feel it. That pull, that connection, that terrifying awareness of him that made her pulse race every time he was near. "This is a terrible idea," she whispered. "Probably the worst I've ever had. We should maintain boundaries." "Absolutely. Stay professional." "Definitely." Neither of them moved. "Tyla," Augusto said, voice rough. "Tell me to back off. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me anything that will make me stop wanting you. Because right now, every instinct I have is screaming at me to pull you close and never let go." She should say it, should draw that line firmly and protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak. But she couldn't. "I can't tell you that," she admitted, "because I'd be lying." His eyes darkened. "Then what do we do?" "I don't know. We could try, see where this goes. Take it slow, be honest with each other, figure it out as we go. Or we could end up destroying each other. Maybe. But maybe it would be worth it." Tyla closed her eyes, trying to think clearly. But all she could feel was the warmth of his body, the intensity of his gaze, the absolute certainty that this man could break her heart into a million pieces. "I need time," she said finally. "To think. To process. To figure out if I'm brave enough for this. Augusto nodded, stepping back to give her space. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Later that night, Tyla couldn't sleep. She kept replaying that conversation. The look in his eyes, the vulnerability in his voice, the absolute sincerity when he said he was falling for her. It terrified her, because she was falling too. Despite everything she'd promised herself, despite the warnings and the danger and the absolute insanity of caring about a man like Augusto Valente. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her reach for it, press the phone to her ear. Miss Ibrahim. The voice was male, rough, unfamiliar. You should be more careful about the company you keep. Her blood went cold. Who is this? A friend, someone concerned about your welfare. That man you're working for. He's not what he seems. I know exactly what he is. Do you? The voice turned mocking. Do you know about the families he's destroyed? The people who crossed him and disappeared? The empire built on blood and betrayal? If you have something to say, say it. Walk away. Before you become another casualty. Before you get so tangled up in his world that there's no escape. Before you lose everything that matters. I'm not afraid of him. Then you're a fool. Augusto Valente doesn't love. He possesses. He consumes. He takes what he wants and destroys everything else. And right now, he wants you. But wanting isn't the same as valuing. Sooner or later, he'll tire of you. And then you'll understand what it means to be discarded by a man like him. You're lying. Am I? Ask him about Francesca. Ask him about the others who thought they were special. Ask him what happened when they stopped being useful. The line went dead. Tyla sat there in the darkness, phone clutched in her shaking hand, heart pounding against her ribs. Someone was watching her. Someone knew about her arrangement with Augusto, and someone wanted her gone. She should call him, should tell him about this threat immediately. But doubt had already taken root. What if the caller was right? What if Augusto was just playing a game, using her attraction to him as leverage? What if everything he'd said today was manipulation dressed up as honesty? She'd promised herself she wouldn't be fooled by dangerous men, wouldn't repeat her father's mistakes, wouldn't lose herself in someone else's darkness. But here she was, falling for exactly the kind of man she should run from. Sleep didn't come that night, only questions, fears, and the growing certainty that she'd made a terrible mistake. The flight to Florence should have been relaxing. Augusto's private jet was exactly what she'd expected. Leather seats that cost more than cars. A cabin crew that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Champagne she didn't drink because her nerves were already wound too tight. He sat across from her, reading something on his tablet, occasionally glancing up to check if she needed anything. She hadn't told him about the phone call. 3 days had passed since that threatening voice in the darkness, and she still hadn't found the right words. How do you tell someone that their enemies are circling, that you're being warned away, that maybe this whole arrangement was a terrible mistake? You're quiet, Augusto said, setting down his tablet. Tyla forced a smile, just tired. You're a terrible liar. I'm not lying. You're not telling the truth either. There's a difference. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What's wrong? Nothing. Tyla. The way he said her name, concerned and gentle, almost broke her resolve. She looked away, focusing on the clouds outside the window. I got a call, a few nights ago. Someone warning me to stay away from you. Silence. When she finally looked back, Augusto's expression had gone completely still. Not angry, exactly. Something colder. More dangerous. What exactly did they say? He asked, voice carefully controlled. She repeated the conversation word for word, watching his jaw tighten with each sentence. Did you recognize the voice? No? Did they threaten you directly? Not exactly. It was more implied. They said I should walk away before I become another casualty. That you don't love, you possess. That you'll tire of me and discard me like the others. Augusto stood abruptly, moving to the window with controlled precision. His shoulders were tense, hands clenched into fists at his sides. "This is Marco Bellini's work," he said finally. "Who?" "A rival. Someone who's been trying to undermine my operations for months." He turned back to her, eyes blazing. "He knows about the artifacts. He wants them for himself, and now he knows you're helping me acquire them." Fear spiked through her chest. "Is he dangerous?" "Yes." "Should I be worried?" "No." Augusto crossed back to her, kneeling so they were eye level. "Because I won't let anything happen to you. You understand? Nothing. No one touches you while you're under my protection." "That's a big promise." "It's the only promise that matters." His hand covered hers where it rested on the armrest. Warm, solid, steady. And she realized with a jolt that she believed him. This man she'd known for less than 2 weeks. This dangerous criminal who operated outside every law she'd ever respected. She trusted him to keep her safe. "The caller mentioned Francesca," Tyla said quietly. "Said I should ask you about her. About what happened when she stopped being useful." Augusto's expression darkened. "Francesca Russo, my ex. We were involved briefly, over a year ago. It ended badly." "Why?" "Because she wanted things I couldn't give her. Marriage, access to my businesses, a level of control over my life that I wasn't willing to surrender. When I ended it, she didn't take it well. Started spreading rumors, trying to damage my reputation. I had to be firm about the boundaries. Define firm. I made it clear that she was no longer welcome in my life or my businesses. Cut off her access to my social circles. Made sure everyone understood that our relationship was over and wouldn't be revisited. And she's bitter about it. Extremely. Which is why I suspect she's working with Marco, feeding him information, helping him target my vulnerabilities." Augusto's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. "But the caller lied about one thing. I didn't discard Francesca because she stopped being useful. I ended things because she never really knew me. She was in love with what I represented, the power, the wealth, the status, not with who I actually am." "And who are you, actually?" He smiled, sad and genuine. "I'm still figuring that out. But I know I'm someone who wants to be better than my reputation suggests. Someone who's tired of surface-level connections that mean nothing. Someone who—" He paused, searching for words. "Someone who looks at you and sees possibility, a future that's different from everything I've known." Tyla's chest tightened. "This is insane. Probably. I should leave. Go back home. Forget this whole thing." "Do you want to?" "No." The admission came out before she could stop it. "I don't want to leave." Something flared in his eyes. Triumph, maybe. Or relief. "Good. Because I don't want you to go." The plane hit turbulence, jolting them both. Augusto steadied her automatically, hand moving to her shoulder, and the touch sent electricity through her entire body. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of me? Of what you make me feel. Of how fast this is happening. Of the fact that I'm starting to care about someone I should probably run from." "I'm scared too," Augusto said quietly. "Terrified, actually. Because you're the first person in years who makes me want to be vulnerable. And vulnerability in my world, it's dangerous. It's a weakness that can be exploited. But with you, I can't seem to help myself. Then what do? We be honest. We take precautions. We protect each other." He moved closer, voice dropping. "And we figure out if this thing between us is real or just chemistry and proximity. What if it's real? Then we deal with that too. Together. The meeting in Florence was tense from the start. The collector, an elderly Italian man named Signor Russo, met them at his villa with the kind of old-world elegance that made Tyla think of nobility and faded glory. But his eyes were sharp, calculating, and he watched Augusto with barely concealed hostility. "Valente," Russo said, not offering his hand. "I was surprised when you requested this meeting." "I'm interested in your statue," Augusto replied smoothly. "The one from the 26th dynasty. I believe we can come to an arrangement." "And who is this?" Russo's gaze slid to Tyla with obvious disdain. "Your assistant." "My authenticator," Augusto said, voice hardening slightly. "Miss Ibrahim is an expert in American antiquities. Anything I purchase will be verified by her first." Tyla stepped forward, refusing to be intimidated. "If you'll show me the piece, Signor Russo, I can begin my evaluation." Russo's mouth thinned. "Of course. Follow me." The statue stood in a private gallery, spotlit and magnificent. Basalt, approximately 60 centimeters tall, depicting a seated scribe with hieroglyphs carved along the base. Beautiful, potentially authentic, and absolutely stolen. Tyla knew it the moment she saw it. She'd read about this piece in graduate school. It had disappeared from an Ohio museum in the 1970s, lost to the black market for decades. And now here, it stood in some rich man's private collection, torn from its rightful home. Her stomach turned. She spent 20 minutes examining the statue, running her fingers over the hieroglyphs, checking the patina and wear patterns. Everything about it screamed authentic, which made its presence here even more problematic. "Well," Russo demanded, "is it genuine?" "It's genuine," she said quietly. "Then we have a deal?" Augusto looked at her, eyebrow raised. She wanted to say, no. Wanted to tell him this statue belonged in a museum, that buying it made him complicit in its theft, that some things shouldn't be bought no matter how much money you had. But she couldn't. Not without breaking their agreement. Not without losing her chance at getting her home back. "It's your decision," she said carefully, meeting his eyes with a look she hoped conveyed her concerns. Augusto studied her face for a long moment, then turned to Russo. "I'll need time to consider." Russo's eyes narrowed. "I have other interested buyers." "Then I'm sure one of them will make you very happy. Good day, Signor Russo." He walked out without another word, leaving Tyla to hurry after him. They didn't speak until they were back in the car, driving through Florence's narrow streets toward the hotel. "You knew," Augusto finally said. "Knew what?" "That the statue was stolen. I saw it in your face." Tyla looked out the window at the beautiful city passing by. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters to me." "Why didn't you buy it then? You came all this way." "Because," he said quietly, "you didn't want me to." She turned to stare at him. "That's not a good business decision." "Probably not. You'll lose the deal. Russo will sell to someone else, and you'll have nothing. I'll have your respect. That's worth more than any statue." Her chest tightened painfully. "You can't just do that. Make decisions based on what I think." "Why not?" "Because I'm just an employee, a temporary one. This shouldn't matter to you." Augusto pulled the car over suddenly, parking along the Arno River, where tourists walked, and lovers held hands under the Tuscan sun. He turned to face her fully. "You're not just an employee, and I think you know that." "What am I, then?" "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But you're not. Nothing. You're not temporary or replaceable or easily forgotten. You walked into my office with fire in your eyes and challenges on your tongue, and you've been disrupting my entire life ever since. I haven't disrupted anything. You've disrupted everything." His hand reached out, fingers curling around hers. I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wondering what you're doing when you're not with me. Can't stop wanting to see that look you get when you're passionate about something, when you forget to be guarded and just shine. Augusto, I know this is complicated. I know you have every reason not to trust me, but I need you to understand something. He moved closer, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I'm falling for you. Maybe I've been falling since the moment you walked into my office. And that terrifies me more than any rival or threat or danger I've ever faced. She should pull away. Should remind him about professional boundaries and power imbalances, and all the reasons this was a terrible idea. But she didn't. Instead, she let herself feel the warmth of his hand, the intensity of his gaze, the absolute sincerity in his voice. I'm going to ruin you, she said quietly. For other women. For everyone else. That's what I promised myself. I'd make you see that charm and power aren't enough. That real connection requires honesty and vulnerability and sacrifice. Then ruin me, Augusto murmured. I'll count it a privilege. They sat there by the river for a long time, hands clasped, neither willing to break the moment. Finally, Tyla spoke. Tell me about your grandmother, the American one. Augusto's expression softened. Her name was Amina. She came from Alexandria, from a family of merchants. My grandfather met her when he was traveling for business. He said it was love at first sight, though she made him work for it. She was stubborn, brilliant, fiercely independent. Sound familiar? Tyla smiled despite herself, maybe a little. She taught me Arabic when I was young, told me stories about pharaohs and queens, about a civilization that understood the importance of legacy and memory. She said that who we are is built on the foundation of who came before us, that honoring the past is how we create a meaningful future. She sounds wonderful. She was. And she would have liked you, would have appreciated your passion for preservation, your respect for history. He paused. Would have probably warned you away from me, actually. Why? Because she always said I had my grandfather's tendency toward obsession, that when I found something or someone I wanted, I wouldn't stop until I had it. She worried that intensity would hurt people. Has it? Sometimes. Yes. The honesty in his answer surprised her. Most men would have deflected or made excuses. I appreciate you telling me that, Tyla said. I told you, honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. They drove back to the hotel in comfortable silence. But that night, as Tyla lay in her room staring at the ceiling, she couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. The stolen statue, Augusto's refusal to buy it, his confession by the river, the growing certainty that she was in way over her head. Her phone rang. Augusto's name flashed on the screen. Can't sleep? She answered. How did you know? Because I can't either. Come have a drink with me, on my terrace. Nothing inappropriate, I promise. Just company. She should say no, should maintain those boundaries they'd talked about. But she didn't. Give me 5 minutes. His suite was 3 floors above hers, with a terrace overlooking the city. He'd set up 2 chairs and a bottle of wine, simple and unexpectedly thoughtful. Thank you for coming, he said as she stepped outside. Thank you for asking. They sat, drinking wine, watching Florence glitter beneath them. Can I ask you something? Augusto said after a while. Sure. Why did you really come here? To Florence, I mean. You could have sent your evaluation remotely, could have stayed in Milan. But you came. Tyla considered lying, considered giving some professional reason. But he'd been honest with her. She could do the same. Because I wanted to, she admitted. Because I'm tired of fighting this pull between us. Because every instinct I have says you're dangerous and complicated and exactly the wrong person for me. But I can't seem to care. I just want to be near you, and that terrifies me." Augusto set down his wine glass carefully. "It terrifies me, too." "Why?" "Because people I care about become targets. Because my world is dangerous and unpredictable. Because I'm terrified that getting close to you will put you in harm's way. But I'm also too selfish to walk away." "So what do? We be careful. We be smart. We take precautions." He reached over, taking her hand. "And we see where this goes. Together. Together," she echoed. They stayed on that terrace for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Her childhood in Ohio, his years building his empire, shared fears and hopes, and all the small details that built real intimacy. And when she finally went back to her room, as dawn painted the sky pink, Tyla knew with absolute certainty that she was falling in love with Augusto Valente, which meant she was in serious trouble. The next morning, they returned to Milan without the statue. Russo called 3 times, trying to convince Augusto to reconsider, but he declined each time, polite and firm. Tyla spent the day in the gallery, cataloging the pieces they'd already acquired, trying not to think about that night on the terrace, trying not to replay every word, every look, every moment of connection. She was in trouble. Deep, complicated trouble. Because she was falling for him too, despite everything she'd promised herself. Despite the warnings, and the danger, and the absolute insanity of caring about a man like Augusto Valente. "There you are." She turned to find a woman standing in the gallery entrance. Tall, blonde, absolutely stunning in a designer dress that probably cost more than Tyla's entire wardrobe. "Can I help you?" Tyla asked. "I'm Francesca." The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm looking for Augusto. Is he here?" "He's in a meeting." "Of course he is. Always working." Francesca walked further into the gallery, heels clicking against the marble floor. "And you are?" "Tyla Ibrahim. I'm the authenticator for his American collection." "Ah. The new project?" Francesca's gaze swept over her, assessing and finding her wanting. "He mentioned you." Something cold settled in Tyla's stomach. "Did he?" "In passing. He said he'd hired someone to help with acquisitions." Francesca moved closer, voice dropping conspiratorially. "Between you and me, I think it's just an excuse. Augusto gets bored easily." "New projects, new people, new distractions. He'll lose interest soon enough. He always does." "I'm not a distraction." "No?" Francesca's smile sharpened. "What are you then?" "An employee." "Of course. How professional." She paused by one of the empty display cases, running a manicured finger along its edge. "Has he taken you to dinner yet? Bought you expensive gifts? Made you feel like you're special? Like you're different from all the others?" Tyla's chest tightened. "I don't think that's any of your business." "It's absolutely my business. Augusto and I have history, lots of history. And I've seen him do this before. Find some new woman, charm her, make her believe she matters. And then," Francesca snapped her fingers, "he moves on, finds the next conquest, leaves behind another broken heart. I don't have a broken heart. Not yet. But you will, because that's what Augusto does. He collects beautiful things, enjoys them for a while, then discards them when something shinier catches his attention. You're just the latest in a long line of women who thought they were special." "Why are you telling me this?" Tyla asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Because I'm trying to save you the pain. Walk away now, before you get too attached. Before you start believing the lies he tells. Trust me, it's easier to leave now than to wait until he crushes you." Francesca walked out without waiting for a response, leaving Tyla standing there with doubt crawling through her veins like poison. Was she right? Was Tyla just another distraction? Another temporary amusement? Would Augusto tire of her the same way he'd tired of Francesca and all the others? The questions circled endlessly, feeding the fear that had been growing since that threatening phone call. Later that evening, Augusto found her still in the gallery, staring at nothing. "You're here late," he said. She didn't turn around. "Who's Francesca?" Silence. Then footsteps, crossing the marble floor. He appeared beside her, expression carefully neutral. "Where did you hear that name?" "She came by. Looking for you. Said you two have history." "We do." "Had. It's complicated." "She said you get bored easily. That I'm just another distraction. That you'll move on to someone new once the novelty wears off." Augusto's jaw tightened. "She's wrong." "Is she?" "Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like there's a pattern. You find someone new, make them feel special, then discard them when you lose interest. How am I any different?" "Because you are different. Everything about you is different." "That's not an answer." "Then what do you want me to say?" Augusto turned to face her fully, frustration bleeding into his voice. "That Francesca's bitter because I ended things? That she wanted something from me I couldn't give? That our entire relationship was built on surface-level attraction and mutual benefit rather than genuine connection? Was it? Yes, absolutely yes. Francesca and I were together for 4 months. She was beautiful, charming, well-connected. On paper, we were perfect. But in reality, he shook his head. There was nothing there. No depth, no real understanding. She wanted the prestige of being with me. I don't even know what I wanted. Companionship, maybe. A distraction from the loneliness. But it wasn't real. It wasn't anything close to real. And what we have is, yes. God, yes. Don't you feel it? The way we can talk for hours without running out of things to say? The way you challenge me, push me to be better? The way I can be honest with you in ways I've never been honest with anyone?" Tyla wanted to believe him, desperately. But Francesca's words had planted seeds of doubt that were growing with every passing second. "She said you collect beautiful things and then discard them," Tyla said quietly. "I'm not collecting you. I'm falling in love with you. There's a massive difference." "How do I know you mean that?" "Because," Augusto said, voice rough with emotion, "I ended things with Francesca because I felt nothing. No connection, no spark, no desire to build something lasting. But with you, I feel everything. Every conversation matters. Every moment together feels significant. You're not a distraction, or a conquest, or a temporary amusement. You're the first person in years who makes me believe I'm capable of something real." Tears burned behind her eyes. "I want to believe you." "Then believe me. Look at my actions, not just my words. I turned down that statue because you didn't want me to buy it. I'm restructuring my operations to create something you can be part of without compromising your values. I'm being more honest with you than I've ever been with anyone. Doesn't that mean something?" It did. Of course it did. But fear was a powerful thing. "I need time," she said finally, "to think, to process all of this." Augusto nodded, stepping back to give her space. "Take all the time you need. But please, don't let Francesca's bitterness poison what we have. She doesn't know me. Not really. But you're starting to. And that's worth protecting." He walked away, leaving her alone with her doubts and fears, and the growing certainty that she was falling in love with a man who could break her heart into 1,000,000 pieces. The question was whether she was brave enough to let him. A few days later, everything changed. Tyla was walking back to her apartment after a late meeting when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, following her for 3 blocks. Her heart rate kicked up. She turned down a side street, walking faster. The car turned, too. Panic surged through her chest. She broke into a run, heels clicking frantically against the pavement. The car accelerated, pulling alongside her. The back door opened. A man stepped out. Not threatening exactly, just there, blocking her path with casual menace. Miss Ibrahim. His voice was smooth, educated. I'd like a word. Leave me alone. I'm afraid I can't do that. My employer is very interested in your relationship with Augusto Valente. Her blood ran cold. I don't have a relationship with him. That's not what our sources indicate. You've been working closely with him for weeks now, traveling together, spending significant time alone. That suggests intimacy. It suggests employment. The man smiled, and it was the coldest thing Tyla had ever seen. Then you won't mind if we ask you a few questions, just to clarify things, just to understand the nature of your arrangement. I'm not answering anything. Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more private, somewhere we won't be interrupted. He gestured to the car with mock politeness. Tyla's mind raced. This was bad, really bad. These were the rivals Augusto had warned her about, and now they wanted information she didn't have, leverage she couldn't provide. She did the only thing she could think of. She called Augusto. The phone rang once before he answered. Tyla. I'm being followed, she said quickly, voice shaking. Black sedan. 2 men. They want to talk about you. They want me to get in the car. Where are you? She gave him the street name, trying to keep her voice steady, even though panic was clawing at her throat. Stay on the phone. Don't get in that car. I'm coming. 5 minutes. Can you hold on for 5 minutes? Augusto. Stay. On. The phone. Talk to me. Keep talking. The man stepped closer. Who are you calling, Miss Ibrahim? A friend. Hang up. No. His expression hardened. Miss Ibrahim, you're making this more difficult than it needs to be. We simply want information. Answer a few questions and you can go on your way. Refuse and, well, my employer can be very persuasive. Good, she said, lifting her chin even though fear threatened to choke her. I'm excellent at being difficult. Augusto's voice in her ear, steady and commanding. That's my girl. Keep him talking. I'm 4 minutes away. 4 minutes is a long time, she murmured. I know. But you're strong. You can do this. Tell me what's happening. The man reached for her arm. Tyla jerked back. Don't touch me. Then get in the car. Not happening. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Miss Ibrahim. Your choice. I vote for the hard way. More footsteps. Another man emerging from the sedan. Bigger, more threatening, with the kind of build that came from hours in the gym and years of violence. This was escalating fast. Augusto, she whispered, backing toward the wall. 2 minutes. Hold on. Just 2 more minutes. The bigger man moved forward with purpose. Tyla's back hit the wall, heart hammering against her ribs so hard she thought it might break through. Then suddenly, the screech of tires. A familiar car pulled up fast, door flying open. Augusto stepped out, and the transformation was immediate and terrifying. Gone was the charming businessman. This was the mafia Don everyone whispered about, all cold fury and lethal grace. Gentlemen, he said quietly, voice like ice, I believe you have something of mine. The first man straightened, trying to maintain his composure. Valente, we were just having a conversation with Miss Ibrahim. No, you were threatening her. There's a difference. We haven't threatened anyone. You cornered her. followed her, attempted to intimidate her into getting in your car. That's threatening enough. Augusto moved closer, and both men actually took a step back. Because Miss Ibrahim is under my protection, and anyone who touches her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong, answers to me. Marco wants the artifacts, the first man said, recovering some of his bravado. He's willing to pay more than you ever could. Marco can choke on his money. Those artifacts aren't for sale. Everything's for sale, for the right price. Not this, Augusto glanced at Tyla, expression softening just slightly before hardening again. Not her. The men exchanged looks, clearly uncertain how to proceed. You're making a mistake, Valente, the first man said finally. Marco won't back down. He wants those artifacts, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get them. Then he'll have to go through me, and I promise you, that won't end well for anyone. Augusto opened his car door wider. Tyla, get in. She didn't hesitate, didn't look back at the men or second-guess the decision. She just ran to his car and slid into the passenger seat, hands shaking so hard she could barely fasten her seatbelt. Augusto got in beside her, pulling away smoothly. His jaw was tight, hands gripping the steering wheel with controlled force. They didn't speak for several blocks. Finally, he said, "Are you hurt?" "No, just scared." "Good." "Good? Fear is healthy. It means you understand the danger." He reached over, taking her hand without looking, away from the road. "But you handled it well. Stayed calm, kept them talking, called me instead of panicking." "I did panic." "No, you survived. There's a difference." Tyla stared at their joined hands, feeling the warmth seep into her cold fingers. "This is real, isn't it? The danger, the threats, everything you warned me about." "Yes. I could have been hurt, could have been taken, could have, but you weren't, and you won't be, not as long as I'm breathing." She believed him, completely, without question, and that terrified her almost as much as the confrontation. Augusto took her back to his estate instead of her apartment. The house was massive, all stone and security and quiet wealth. He led her inside, past staff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts, up to a sitting room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Stay here tonight," he said. "I'll have someone bring your things from your apartment. But I want you where I can protect you, where I know you're safe." "For how long?" "Until this is resolved." "And when will that be?" "Soon." His voice hardened dangerously. "Marco Bellini is going to learn that there are consequences for threatening what's mine." "I'm not yours." "Aren't you?" The question hung between them, heavy and loaded with meaning. Tyla looked away first. "I need a shower, and probably several hours to process what just happened. There are guest rooms on the second floor. Pick whichever one you want. I'll have dinner brought up in an hour." She nodded, starting toward the door. "Tyla." She stopped, turning back. "I meant what I said earlier, about you being under my protection. That's not temporary. That's not part of our 6-month agreement. That's permanent. Whether you work for me or not, whether you stay in my life or walk away, I will always protect you. Always." Her throat tightened. "Why?" "Because," Augusto said quietly, "I'm in love with you, and that's not something I can take back or ignore or pretend doesn't exist. It just is." The words hit her like physical force. "You barely know me," she whispered. "I know enough." "This is insane." "Probably. We could both get hurt. I don't care. You should care. You should walk away and find someone safer, someone who fits into your world better, someone who won't bring complications." Augusto crossed to her slowly, stopping close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I don't want safe. I don't want easy. I want you. Stubborn, challenging, absolutely terrifying you. The woman who looks at me and sees past every mask I wear. The woman who makes me want to be better, just so I can deserve the way she smiles when she thinks I'm not watching. Augusto. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone with impossible gentleness. You said you'd ruin me for other women. Mission accomplished, Kara. I'm completely, irrevocably ruined. There's no going back from this, from you. And then he kissed her forehead, lingering and tender, and walked away, leaving her standing there with tears streaming down her face, and her heart breaking and healing all at once. She stood there for a long moment, trying to catch her breath, trying to process everything that had happened in the last few hours. Then she went upstairs, found a guest room, and let herself fall apart. The next morning brought clarity and chaos in equal measure. Tyla woke in an unfamiliar bed, surrounded by luxury she couldn't comprehend, with the memory of Augusto's confession burning through her mind like fever. He loved her. The most dangerous man in Milan loved her, and she didn't know what to do with that information. She found him in his study, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian with an edge in his voice that made her stomach clench. He saw her in the doorway and gestured for her to come in, wrapping up the call. "Good morning," he said. "Did you sleep?" "Barely." "You?" "Not at all." He looked it, shadows under his eyes, tension in his shoulders, exhaustion written in every line of his body, but still impossibly handsome, still radiating that controlled power that made her pulse quicken. "What's happening?" she asked. "Marco's escalating. He made threats against my operations, against people I care about. He wants the artifacts, and he's willing to burn everything to get them. So give them to him." Augusto's eyebrow lifted. "You want me to surrender?" "I want you to be safe. I want this to end before someone gets seriously hurt." "The artifacts are not what this is really about. Marco wants to prove he's stronger than me, that he can take whatever he wants, including what's mine. If I give him the artifacts, he'll just find something else to target. Someone else. Like me. Especially like you." Tyla sat down heavily in one of the leather chairs. "This is my fault. I should never have agreed to work for you. Should never have gotten involved in your world." "Don't." Augusto moved around the desk, kneeling in front of her with urgent intensity. "Don't blame yourself for his actions. Marco chose this fight. He chose to threaten you. That's on him, not you. But if I leave, he'll still come after you, because now he knows you matter to me. And that makes you a target regardless of whether you're here or halfway across the world." Her hands clenched in her lap. "So what do we do?" "We end this, once and for all." "How?" Augusto's expression went dark, dangerous. "I'm going to make Marco an offer he can't refuse. Either he backs off completely, walks away from the artifacts and from you, or I dismantle his entire operation piece by piece. I'll take his businesses, his connections, his reputation, everything he's built over the last decade. I'll destroy it all. And he knows I can do it." "That's dangerous." "So is breathing in my world. Augusto, this is who I am, Tyla. This is what I do. I protect what's mine, and I eliminate threats. You don't have to like it, but you do need to accept it, because I won't apologize for keeping you safe." She stared at him, this complex man who loved her and terrified her in equal measure. "I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm asking you to be careful. Please." His expression softened marginally. "Always. For you. Always." He stood, pulling her up with him, and wrapped his arms around her carefully. She let herself lean into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the strength in his embrace. "I'm scared," she admitted into his chest. "I know. Me too. What if something happens to you because of me?" Then I'll handle it. But nothing is going to happen. I promise you that. Later that day, Augusto had meetings Tyla wasn't allowed to attend. Men came and went from his study, speaking in low voices about things she probably didn't want to know. She spent the time in the gallery trying to focus on inventory lists and authentication reports. But her mind kept drifting to Francesca's warnings, to the men who'd cornered her on that street, to Augusto's confession and the impossible weight of being loved by someone like him. You look troubled. She spun around to find an older man standing in the gallery entrance, distinguished, well-dressed, with kind eyes that reminded her of her father before the gambling took over. "I'm sorry," she said. "The gallery is closed for private events." "I know. Augusto invited me." He stepped forward, offering his hand. "Antonio Marchetti. I'm an old friend of the family." Tyla shook his hand cautiously. "Tyla Ibrahim." "Ah, the American expert. Augusto's mentioned you many times." "Has he?" "Many, many times. He's quite taken with you." Heat crept up her neck. "I'm just helping with his collection." Antonio's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Of course. Just helping." He moved to examine one of the display cases, studying a bronze amulet with genuine interest. "You know, I've known Augusto since he was a boy, watched him grow into the man he is today, and I've never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Vulnerable. Open. Almost human." Antonio turned back to her with a gentle smile. He spent his entire adult life building walls, protecting himself from genuine connection, creating an image that keeps everyone at a distance. But you walked right through those walls like they didn't exist. "I don't think I did anything special." "That's exactly what makes you special. You don't see him as the Don, the criminal, the dangerous man everyone fears. You see Augusto. Just Augusto. The man beneath all the armor. And that terrifies him more than any rival or threat." Tyla's throat tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you're scared too. Scared of what it means to love someone like him. Scared of the danger, the complications, the absolute insanity of choosing this life." Antonio moved, closer, voice becoming earnest. "But love isn't about choosing the safe option. It's about choosing the person who makes you want to be braver than you thought possible. And Augusto, he makes you braver, doesn't he?" "Yes," she admitted quietly. "He does. And you make him better. More honest, more willing to examine his choices and change his path. That's rare. That's precious. That's worth fighting for. What if I can't be brave enough? Then you walk away. And Augusto survives like he always has. Alone, protected, miserable." Antonio paused, letting the words sink in. "Or you stay, and you both learn what it means to truly live, to build something real together, to create a future that's different from everything you've known." He left before she could respond, leaving her alone with thoughts that wouldn't settle, and a heart that was slowly accepting what her mind had been fighting. She was in love with Augusto Valente, completely, terrifyingly, irrevocably in love, and that changed everything. That evening, Augusto took her to dinner, not at his estate, but at a small restaurant overlooking the water. Private room, candlelight, the kind of romantic setting that made her heart ache with possibility. "You didn't have to do this," she said as they sat down. "I wanted to. We need—" He paused, searching for words. "We need normal. Just for a few hours. No threats, no danger, no business. Just us. Is that even possible in your life?" "Tonight it is." They ordered food, talked about inconsequential things. Her childhood in Ohio, the markets and mosques, and the way the city came alive at sunset. His grandmother's stories, the way she'd blend Italian and Arabic in the same sentence, the food she'd cook that mixed both cultures. But underneath the conversation, tension simmered. Francesca came to see me, Tyla finally said, needing to address the elephant in the room. Augusto's fork paused halfway to his mouth. When? A few days ago. The gallery. What did she say? That you get bored easily. That I'm just another distraction. That you'll break my heart and move on like you always do. He set down his fork slowly, deliberately. And you believed her? I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe this. He leaned forward, eyes intense. Francesca is bitter because I ended things with her. She wanted commitment I couldn't give because I didn't love her. I tried, wanted to love her, to feel what everyone else seemed to feel so easily. But every time I looked at her, I felt nothing. No connection, no spark, no desire to build something real. So I ended it, cleanly, honestly, with as much dignity as I could offer. And she's hated me for it ever since. Why? Because no one rejects Francesca Russo. She's beautiful, wealthy, connected. Men fall at her feet begging for her attention. And he shook his head. I walked away. That's unforgivable in her mind. Tyla absorbed this, watching his face for signs of deception. But all she saw was honesty, maybe even regret. She said you'd lose interest in me too, Tyla said quietly. I won't. How can you be so sure? Because, Augusto said with absolute conviction. With you, I feel everything. Every conversation sparks something new. Every look, every word, every moment makes me want more. You challenge me, infuriate me, make me question everything I thought I knew about myself. And I'm addicted to it. To you. There's no getting bored when every day brings new reasons to fall deeper. Tears burned behind her eyes. This is too much. I know. I don't deserve this kind of devotion. You deserve everything. Augusto. He reached across the table, taking her hand in both of his. I know I'm asking for something impossible. I know my world is dangerous and complicated and absolutely insane. But I'm asking anyway. Stay with me. Not just for 6 months. Not just until the artifacts are acquired. Stay with me because you want to. Because this thing between us, it's worth fighting for. She wanted to say yes, wanted to throw caution away and dive into whatever this was becoming. But fear still held her back. What if Marco doesn't back down? She whispered. What if he hurts you because of me? Then he hurts me. But at least I'll have had this. Had you. Had moments like right now where I look at you and think maybe, just maybe, I'm capable of something good. You are capable of good things. You're doing good things with this gallery, with your life changes. Only with you. Only because of you. The admission broke something open inside her chest, cracking through the last of her defenses. I'm falling for you too, she said, voice shaking. I've been fighting it, trying to convince myself it's just proximity, or adrenaline, or temporary insanity. But it's not. It's real, and that terrifies me more than anything else. Augusto's hand tightened around hers. I know, I'm terrified too. Then, what do? We jump, together, and we figure it out as we go. Tyla looked at him across the table, this dangerous man who'd somehow become her safe place, and made a decision. Okay, she said, let's jump. His smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. Yeah? Yeah. He stood, moving around the table to pull her into his arms. And when he kissed her forehead, then her cheeks, then finally, carefully, her lips, it felt like coming home, like finding something she didn't know she'd been searching for her entire life. They stayed at the restaurant for hours, talking and laughing and stealing touches like teenagers discovering first love. And when they finally left, walking back to his car, hand in hand, Tyla knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. Whatever came next, They'd face it together. By the end of the week, things came to a head. Marco agreed to meet with Augusto at a neutral location, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Tyla insisted on coming despite Augusto's vehement protests. "You can't be there," he said for the 10th time. "Why not?" "Because it's dangerous. Because Marco might try something. Because I need to know you're safe so I can focus on ending this without worrying about you getting caught in the crossfire. And I need to be there so I can make sure you're safe. So I can see this through. So I'm not sitting at home wondering if you're alive or dead." They stared at each other, both stubborn, both terrified for different reasons. "Fine," Augusto finally said through gritted teeth. "But you stay in the car with my security team. No matter what happens, you do not leave that car. You do not get involved. You stay put and stay safe. Understood?" Understood. But she was lying, and they both probably knew it. The warehouse was exactly as ominous as she'd expected. Dark, industrial, echoing with every footstep. Augusto's men fanned out as they entered, creating a perimeter of protection that felt both reassuring and terrifying. Marco waited in the center of the space. He was younger than Tyla expected, mid-30s, handsome in a cold way, with calculating eyes that assessed her like a commodity to be bought or sold. "Valente," he said, voice echoing through the empty space. "You brought your pet." "Watch your mouth," Augusto growled, voice dangerous. "Touchy. She must be special if she's got the infamous Augusto Valente so rattled. Tell me, does she know what you really are? What you've done to build your empire? Say what you came to say, Bellini. I'm not here for games." Marco circled them slowly, predator assessing prey. "I want the artifacts, all of them. And I want her to stop interfering with my business, stop making my collectors nervous about selling to me. Not happening. Then we have a problem, a big problem. We've always had a problem. This just brings it to light." Marco's smile turned vicious, cruel. "You think you're untouchable, that your reputation protects you. But everyone has weaknesses, Valente. Everyone has something they'd die to protect. And you've just shown me yours." He gestured with casual menace. Men emerged from the shadows. Too many men. All armed, all looking like they knew exactly how to use those weapons. Augusto's body went tense beside her, every muscle coiling for action. "This is how it's gonna work," Marco said, voice dripping with false reasonableness. "You give me what I want, or I take it. Starting with her. I wonder how long the great Augusto Valente will last when I have his woman. How much pain she'll have to endure before you break completely." Everything happened fast after that. Augusto pushed Tyla behind him with bruising force. His men moved forward in coordinated response. Marco's men did the same. The warehouse exploded into chaos, shouting and movement, and the terrible certainty that someone was going to get hurt. "Stay behind me," Augusto ordered, voice hard as stone. But Tyla saw the gun, saw Marco raise it with deliberate slowness, aim it directly at Augusto's chest with murderous intent. She didn't think. She just moved, threw herself forward, shoving Augusto sideways with all her strength just as the shot rang out, deafeningly loud in the enclosed space. Pain exploded through her shoulder, white-hot and overwhelming. She fell. Heard Augusto shouting her name, felt his hands catching her before she hit the concrete ground. Then everything went dark, consciousness slipping away like water through her fingers. She woke in a hospital, bright lights, antiseptic smell, beeping machines that measured her heartbeat. Her shoulder throbbed with every breath, wrapped tight in bandages that pulled against her skin. Augusto sat beside her bed, head in his hands, shoulders shaking slightly. "Hi," she whispered, voice rough from disuse. His head snapped up so fast, she heard his neck crack. "Tyla. Oh God, Tyla." He reached for her hand, gripping it like a lifeline. like she might disappear if he let go. "You're awake. You're okay. The doctor said you'd be okay, but how long?" 3 days. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The bullet went through your shoulder, clean through, no permanent damage. But you lost so much blood, and you wouldn't wake up. And I thought," his voice broke, "I thought I'd lost you." She tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her shoulder, sharp and immediate, making her gasp. "Don't move," Augusto said quickly, gently pushing her back down. "The wound is still healing. You need to rest, need to let your body recover." "What happened with Marco?" His expression darkened significantly. "He's gone, arrested along with half his operation. His entire empire is being dismantled as we speak. He won't bother us again. Won't bother anyone again for a very long time." "Good." "Good? Good?" Augusto's voice cracked with emotion. "Tyla, you could have died. You jumped in front of a bullet meant for me. You could have been killed. Do you understand that? Do you understand what you did?" "But I wasn't killed. I'm fine. That's not the point. You can't do things like that. Can't risk yourself for me. Can't throw yourself into danger to protect me." "Why not? You'd do it for me." "That's different." "How?" "Because He stopped, jaw working as he struggled for words. "Because I'm not worth saving. My life is violence and danger and everything you should run from. But you're good. You're light. You're everything worth protecting in this world. You're the best person I've ever known." Tyla felt tears slip down her cheeks. "You're worth saving, too. You're worth everything." Augusto leaned forward, pressing his forehead against their joined hands, and she realized he was crying. Actually crying, tears falling onto their clasped fingers. "When I saw you fall," he said, voice wrecked. "When I saw that blood, thought I'd lost you. Thought I'd lose the only good thing that's happened to me in years. And I knew I couldn't survive it. Couldn't survive losing you. You didn't lose me. I'm right here. I love you," he said fiercely, looking up with red-rimmed eyes. "I love you so much it physically hurts. And I'm begging you, please don't leave me. Please give us a chance. I'll do anything. Be anything. Change everything about my life if that's what it takes. Just stay. Please stay." She reached up with her good arm, cupping his face despite the pull on her injured shoulder. "I'm not going anywhere. I love you too. Completely. Terrifyingly. Without question or reservation. I love you, Augusto Valente. And yes, I'll stay. For as long as you'll have me." He kissed her hand, her wrist, her forehead, with such desperate tenderness that fresh tears spilled down her face. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve this," he murmured against her skin. "Deserve you. I swear it." "You already do." "No, but I will. I promise you that." A few days later, Tyla was released from the hospital. Augusto had arranged for her to recover at his estate, in a room adjacent to his with round-the-clock medical care if she needed it. But mostly, she just needed him. He barely left her side, brought her meals, helped her with physical therapy exercises, read to her when she couldn't sleep, held her when nightmares about that warehouse made her wake up shaking. "You're hovering," she said one afternoon, as he fussed with her pillows for the 3rd time. "I'm being attentive. You're being ridiculous." "Probably." He sat beside her on the bed, careful not to jostle her healing shoulder. "I keep seeing it. You falling, the blood, your face going pale, and I can't stop the fear." Tyla took his hand with her good arm. "I'm okay. I'm right here, healing, getting stronger every day. I know. Logically, I know that, but my heart." He pressed their joined hands against his chest, and she could feel how fast his heart was racing. My heart won't believe it yet. Then let me prove it. She shifted closer, despite the twinge in her shoulder, meeting his eyes with absolute certainty. Kiss me. Not my hand or my forehead. Really kiss me. Show me you believe I'm here, that I'm real, that we survived this. Augusto's eyes darkened with emotion. Tyla, please. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, but she didn't. She met him halfway, their lips finally meeting in a gentle and perfect way. I'm never letting you go, he whispered. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. The weeks that followed brought changes neither of them expected. Augusto gradually stepped back from the more dangerous aspects of his operations, not abandoning his empire, but restructuring it, removing the illegal elements, legitimizing what he could. It was slow work, complicated and often frustrating. But he did it for her. For them. For the future they were building together. Tyla watched him transform, saw the careful decisions he made to create something they could both live with. Something that wouldn't put her in danger or force her to compromise her values. You don't have to do this, she said one evening as they reviewed legal documents in his study. Yes, I do. Augusto. He looked up, expression serious and determined. I meant what I said. I want to deserve you. And that means creating a life we can both be proud of. One that doesn't involve looking over our shoulders or wondering when the next threat will appear. One where we can build something lasting. But this is your legacy, your family's business. You're my legacy now, you and whatever future we build together. Everything else is just background noise. She moved around the desk, settling into his lap despite the lingering soreness in her shoulder. I love you. I love you more. Not possible. Definitely possible. Have extensive evidence prepared to support my case. She laughed and rose on her toes to peck his forehead. These moments of peace, of simple domestic happiness, they felt precious, hard-won, absolutely worth every struggle that brought them here. Antonio visited a few weeks later, finding them in the gallery. The collection had grown significantly, pieces they'd acquired through legitimate channels, authentic artifacts, displayed with respect and proper provenance documentation. It was becoming something beautiful, something meaningful, something they'd built together. Impressive, Antonio said, examining a limestone relief with genuine appreciation. You've done remarkable work here. Tyla did most of it, Augusto said, arm around her waist. We did it together, she corrected, leaning into his warmth. Antonio smiled, the kind of smile that spoke of satisfaction and vindication. You're good for him. Both of you are good for each other. I knew it from the moment I met you, Tyla. You had that quality, that ability to see beneath the surface, to find the gold hidden under all the armor. Thank you, Tyla said sincerely. I heard about Marco, about what happened at the warehouse. Antonio's expression turned serious. That could have ended very differently, very badly. But it didn't, Augusto said firmly, pulling Tyla closer. It ended with Tyla alive, Marco in prison, and our future secured. That's all that matters now. Still, you're both lucky. Very lucky. I know. Augusto looked down at Tyla with such love that her breath caught. Believe me, I know exactly how lucky I am. I count my blessings every single day. By the end of the month, everything had settled into a new, beautiful normal. Augusto's operations were almost entirely legitimate. The gallery was thriving, attracting attention from museums and collectors worldwide. And their relationship had deepened into something solid, unshakable, absolutely certain. But there was still one unresolved issue hanging between them. I want to talk about your father's estate, Augusto said one morning over breakfast. Tyla looked up from her coffee, surprised. What about it? Our agreement was 6 months. You've been with me for almost 4 months now. And I was thinking." He paused, choosing words carefully. "Maybe we should revise the terms. Maybe we should end the arrangement early." Her stomach dropped sickeningly. "You want to back out?" "What?" "No. God, no. The opposite." He reached across the table, taking her hand urgently. "I want to give you the estate back. Now. No conditions, no waiting for the 6 months to end. It's yours. Fully restored, debt cleared, completely yours. I don't understand. You took a bullet for me, Tyla. You risked your life to save mine. That's worth more than any house, or any debt, or any business arrangement. And I don't want you wondering if you're staying because of our agreement, or because you actually want to be here. I want you to choose me freely, without obligations or conditions." Tears filled her eyes. "I want to be here. The estate stopped mattering weeks ago. I stay because I love you. Because this is where I belong. Because being with you feels like home, in a way nothing else ever has. Then take it anyway, because I love you, and because you deserve to have everything that was stolen from you returned. Everything that's rightfully yours." She stood, moving around the table to kiss him with everything she felt, long and deep and filled with promises. "Thank you," she whispered against his lips. "Always." But complications arose despite their happiness. Francesca reappeared a few weeks later, showing up at the gallery unannounced, like a ghost from a past Augusto had tried to leave behind. Tyla was alone, cataloging new acquisitions, when the door opened without warning. "Hello again," Francesca said, smiling that cold, calculating smile that never reached her eyes. "What do you want?" Tyla asked, not bothering with pleasantries. "To talk, woman to woman, without all the male posturing and protection." "We have nothing to discuss." "I disagree." Francesca moved closer with predatory grace. "You think you've won, that you've tamed the great Augusto Valente, made him into something acceptable and safe. But you're fooling yourself. You're lying to yourself about what he really is. I'm not trying to tame anyone." "No? Then what are you doing? Because from where I'm standing, you've taken a powerful man and turned him into something domesticated, weak, a shadow of who he used to be, a shell of the man everyone used to fear." Anger flared hot in Tyla's chest. "He's not weak. He's evolving, growing, becoming someone he can actually be proud of. Someone who doesn't have to hide behind violence and fear to feel powerful. He's becoming boring, and eventually he'll resent you for it. He'll remember who he was, what he had, all the power he wielded, and he'll blame you for taking it away, for making him less than he was. You're wrong. Am I? Give it time. Give it a few more months, maybe a year. When the novelty wears off and reality sets in, when he realizes what he sacrificed for you, when the passion fades and all that's left is routine and obligation, he'll leave, and you'll be left with nothing but regrets and a broken heart." "Why are you doing this?" Tyla demanded, stepping forward. "Why can't you just let him be happy? Why can't you move on with your own life?" "Because," Francesca said, voice turning vicious and ugly, "if I can't have him, no one should. Especially not some naive little curator who thinks love conquers all. Who thinks she can change a man like Augusto Valente with nothing but good intentions and wide eyes. Get out." "Or what? You'll call Augusto? Let him rescue you again? Prove my point that you're just another damsel who needs constant protection, who can't handle the real world on her own." I said, "Get out. Make me." Tyla stepped forward, meeting Francesca's eyes without flinching, without showing any of the doubt or fear trying to take root. "I don't need to make you. Because you're already irrelevant. Already yesterday's news. Augusto chose me. Not because I manipulated him, or trapped him, or forced him to change. He chose me because we see each other. Really see each other. Because we challenge each other to be better while accepting exactly who we are right now. And that's something you'll never understand, because you only ever saw what he could give you, not who he actually is underneath all the power and money. Francesca's expression twisted with rage. You think you're so special, so different. No, I think he's special, and I think I'm lucky enough to be loved by someone who challenges me to be braver than I thought possible. Someone who shows up every single day and chooses me again. That's not weakness. That's strength, real, lasting strength that doesn't require power or control or fear to exist. You'll regret this conversation. I doubt it. But you might, because Augusto's going to hear about this visit, and he won't be happy. Francesca turned and left without another word, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Tyla stood there for a moment, heart racing, hands shaking slightly with adrenaline. When Augusto arrived an hour later, she told him everything. His jaw tightened dangerously with each word. She threatened you again? Not exactly. Just tried to plant doubt. Tried to make me believe you'd eventually resent me. And did it work? No. Tyla moved into his arms, feeling safe and certain. Because I know what we have. I know it's real. And I know you're not going anywhere. Never, Augusto murmured against her hair. I'm never leaving you. Never. Good. Because I'd hunt you down if you tried. He laughed despite the tension, surprising them both. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. Later that week, Augusto made an announcement. He'd arranged for Francesca to leave the country. Not forced, not threatened, just encouraged. With enough financial incentive that she agreed readily, eager to start fresh somewhere far from Milan and the memories of what she'd lost. She won't bother us again, he said. You paid her off. I made her comfortable elsewhere. There's a difference. Tyla shook her head, unable to suppress a smile. You're ridiculous. I'm protective. There's a difference there too. Still ridiculous. But you love me anyway, unfortunately. He pulled her close against his chest until she forgot what they were arguing about. By the end of the 6-month mark, everything had changed completely. The gallery was complete, a stunning collection of authentic American artifacts displayed with reverence and proper historical context. Museums around the world had reached out, interested in loans and partnerships and collaboration. Tyla's reputation in the field had grown exponentially. She'd received job offers from institutions in Ohio, London, Paris, New York. Prestigious positions that would have been dreams just months ago. But she turned them all down. Because her dream was here. With Augusto. In the life they were building together, brick by brick, choice by choice. I have something for you, he said one evening. They were in the garden of his estate, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink and orange. What is it? She asked, curious. He pulled out a small velvet box, and her breath caught painfully in her throat. This isn't what you think, Augusto said quickly. I mean, it is, but also it's more than that. Just let me explain before you say anything. He opened the box to reveal a ring, simple, elegant, with a single emerald, surrounded by small diamonds that caught the fading light. My grandmother's ring, he said, voice thick with emotion. The one my grandfather gave her when they got engaged. She wore it every day until she died. And she made me promise that when I found someone worth keeping, someone who saw me the way she saw my grandfather, someone who made me want to be better, I'd give them this ring. tears streamed down Tyla's face, unstoppable. "I know 6 months isn't very long," Augusto continued, pulling the ring from the box. "I know we've been through trauma and danger and more complications than most couples face in years. But I also know, without a single doubt, that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep holding you every night. I want to build something permanent and real and absolutely ours. Something that lasts beyond any threat or challenge or obstacle. Augusto, so I'm asking. Not as the Don, not as your employer, not as someone who holds any power over you. I'm asking as a man who loves you more than anything in this world, as someone who's been completely, irrevocably changed by knowing you. Tyla Ibrahim, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me? Will you ruin me for everyone else for the rest of our days?" She could barely see through her tears. "Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into his arms, kissing her with joy and relief and promises of forever. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "So much. More than I ever thought possible. I love you too. More than words can express." They stood there as the sun set completely, wrapped in each other, planning a future neither of them had dared to imagine just 6 months ago. The wedding happened 3 months later. Small, intimate, just close friends and family who genuinely cared about them. Antonio walked Tyla down the aisle since her father was gone. Augusto's eyes never left her face as she approached, his expression filled with such love and wonder that it made her heartache in the best way. The vows they wrote were simple but profound. She promised to see him always, to challenge him when needed, to love him through every complication and choice. He promised to protect her always, to choose her above all else, to build a life worthy of her faith in him. And when the officiant pronounced them married, the kiss they shared was tender and perfect and absolutely theirs. Later, at the reception held in the garden where he'd proposed, Antonio pulled Tyla aside with a knowing smile. "You did it," he said warmly. "Did what?" "Changed him. Made him believe in something beyond power and reputation and fear. Gave him a reason to be better, a reason to hope. He did that himself. I just showed up. Just loved him exactly as he is. No, you did more than that. You saw him. Really saw him beneath all the armor and walls. And that made all the difference. That changed everything." Tyla looked across the garden to where Augusto stood talking, with friends, laughing at something someone said. He caught her watching and winked. That small, intimate gesture that was just for her. "He saved me too," she said quietly. "In ways I didn't even know I needed saving. He showed me what it means to be loved completely, to be chosen every single day, to build something real from nothing but honesty and courage. That's how love works when it's real. Mutual salvation, mutual transformation. I like that. Good, because you're stuck with him now, for better or worse, in danger and in safety. I know." She grinned, feeling light and happy and more certain than she'd ever been. Lucky me. A year later, everything had settled into beautiful, comfortable happiness. The gallery was internationally recognized, featured in magazines and documentaries. Augusto's businesses were completely legitimate, thriving in ways they never had when he operated in shadows and fear. And their relationship had deepened into something solid and unshakable and absolutely permanent. But the best surprise came one morning when Tyla woke feeling nauseous. She took a test, then another, then a third just to be absolutely certain. Then called Augusto at work, voice shaking with emotion and excitement. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, always attuned to her moods. "Are you okay? Do you need me to come home?" "I'm pregnant." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Then, "Say that again." "I'm pregnant. We're having a baby. We're going to be parents." More silence, longer this time. Then a sound like something crashing in the background, followed by Augusto's voice, thick with emotion and wonder. "I'm coming home. Don't move. Don't do anything. I'm coming home right now." He burst through the door 20 minutes later, still in his suit, slightly disheveled, breathing hard like he'd run the entire way. "You're sure?" he asked, eyes wide. 3 positive tests. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms with careful intensity. "We're having a baby. Are you happy?" "Happy." "Tyla, I'm—" He pulled back to look at her, eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm terrified and thrilled and so grateful I can barely breathe. You're giving me a family, an actual family, something I never thought I'd have, something I didn't dare hope for. We're building it together. Yes, together. Always together." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, finally her lips. Gentle and loving and filled with wonder at this new chapter beginning. The pregnancy was relatively smooth, all things considered. Augusto hovered constantly, of course, insisted on accompanying her to every appointment, read every book about babies and parenting he could find, prepared the nursery months before it was needed, with obsessive attention to detail. "You're obsessing," Tyla said one afternoon, watching him organize tiny clothes for the 3rd time that week. "I'm being prepared. You're being ridiculous. Probably." He sat beside her on the couch, hand settling on her growing belly with reverence. "But this is important. This is our child, our future, everything we've built leading to this moment. I want everything to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be filled with love. Then it will be, because I already love this baby more than I thought possible. And I love you." He leaned close, voice dropping with intensity. "I love you beyond measure, beyond reason, beyond anything I can properly express." "I love you too," she whispered, covering his hand with hers. "Thank you for this. For us. For everything we've built together." "Thank me." "Tyla, you're the one who stormed into my office and ruined me for anyone else. You're the one who saw through every mask and demanded better. This life, this happiness, this future. It's all because you refused to let me hide, because you were brave enough to love me despite everything. Then we saved each other. Yes, we absolutely did." Their daughter was born on a sunny afternoon in May. Small, perfect, with a full head of dark hair, and her father's eyes looking up at them with innocent wonder. Augusto held her with such careful tenderness, such absolute awe, that Tyla's heart nearly burst watching them together. "She's perfect," he whispered, voice rough with emotion. "She is. What should we name her?" They discussed names for months, but never decided, waiting to meet her first. Now, looking at their daughter, Tyla knew exactly what felt right. "Nadia. It means hope." Augusto's eyes met hers, bright with tears. "Hope? Yes, that's perfect. Because she is our hope, our future. Everything good that came from choosing love over fear, from choosing each other over everything else." He kissed their daughter's forehead with infinite gentleness, then leaned over to kiss Tyla with the same tender care. "Thank you," murmured against her lips. "For this. For her. For giving me a reason to become someone worthy of both of you. You were always worthy. You just needed to believe it. I believe it now. Because of you. Because of our family." Little Nadia made a small sound, and they both turned their attention back to her, marveling at this tiny life they'd created together through love and courage and absolute determination. Outside, the sun set over Milan, painting the sky in colors that promised new beginnings and endless possibilities. Inside, a family settled into the kind of love that conquers everything. Fear, danger, past mistakes, impossible odds, all the obstacles that tried to keep them apart. The kind of love that transforms, the kind of love worth fighting for. And as Augusto held his wife and daughter, feeling complete in a way he'd never imagined possible, he made a silent vow to protect them always, to cherish them endlessly, to spend every remaining day proving that love, real love, the kind that sees and challenges and transforms, that love could build something beautiful from even the darkest beginning. Years later, when people asked Augusto Valente about the turning point in his life, he'd always smile and tell them the same story. About a fierce American woman who walked into his office with fire in her eyes and vows to ruin him for everyone else. About how she succeeded beyond her wildest imagination. About how being ruined turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories begin with destruction, with walls coming down and masks being stripped away. With two people brave enough to see each other truly and choose each other anyway, despite all the reasons they shouldn't. That's the kind of love that lasts. That's the kind of love that matters. That's the kind of love that changes everything. And that's the kind of love Augusto Valente and Tyler Ibrahim built together. One honest moment at a time, one brave choice after another. Their empire wasn't built on power or fear or reputation. It was built on truth, vulnerability, and the courage to love without limits. On choosing each other every single day, through every challenge and complication. On believing that together, they could create something better than anything they'd known alone. And that, in the end, was worth everything. Worth every risk. Worth every fear overcome. Worth every moment of doubt transformed into certainty. Because love, real love, doesn't make life easier. It makes life worth living. And Augusto and Tyler had built a life together that proved exactly that. A life filled with laughter and challenges and deep, unshakable love. A life that honored both their pasts while creating a future neither could have imagined. A life that proved, beyond any doubt, that choosing love, choosing each other, choosing courage over safety, and honesty over convenience, that was the greatest choice either of them had ever made. And they'd make that choice again, every single day, for the rest of their lives. I hope their love story made you believe in transformation and second chances. Drop a like if you're Team Augusto and Tyler. Share it with your romance-loving friends. And subscribe for more stories that'll make you feel everything.